In 3 days, I, Shen Qingwan, will marry into the mansion of the Marquise of Zhenbei. Everyone in the capital is gossiping, saying that for an orphan like me whose parents died early to be able to latch onto the heir of a marquise's mansion, my ancestral graves must be smoking green. When the neighbors see me, their eyes are full of envy, as if I am about to fly up the branch and become a phoenix. I sat by the window, playing with a delicate pouch in my hand. This is a picture of mandarin ducks playing in water that I embroidered myself, stitch by stitch, originally intending to give it to him as a wedding gift. The stitches are fine and dense. Every stitch carried my 3 years of infatuation. The twilight light shone in through the window lattice, making the golden threads on the pouch glitter and shine. I gently smoothed the creases on the pouch, preparing to go to his study and give it to him in person. Just as I reached the covered corridor outside the study, I heard voices coming from inside. Brother Zhengxiao. It was Lu Cheng'an's voice, with a hint of teasing. You are about to have your grand wedding. So what about that one in the southern city villa? I heard there is even a child, and it is a boy at that. This is the eldest son, mind you. How do you plan to explain it to your future sister-in-law? My footsteps suddenly stopped. Southern city villa? A child, eldest son? These few words exploded like a clap of thunder by my ears, shocking me so much my legs went weak. I subconsciously held onto a corridor pillar, my fingernails almost digging into the wood. Please make sure you are in a comfortable position. Our main story is about to start. In the comments, reply and let us know what city everyone is reading our story from. The room was silent for a moment. Then that familiar voice of Shi Zhengxiao came, his tone tinged with a bit of nonchalance. An explanation? For a mere orphan girl like her to be able to sit in the position of the matriarch of my marquise's manor is already a tremendous stroke of luck. As for that child, just raise him outside. If she is sensible, she should feel fortunate that I am expanding the family line. If she isn't, I couldn't hear the rest of his words clearly, nor did I want to listen anymore. The sachet in my hand became scalding hot, like a piece of red-hot iron about to burn through my palm. What I thought was a fated and beautiful union was nothing but an act of charity in his eyes. What I thought was mutual affection. In his heart, I was just an orphan girl who should be endlessly grateful. Even him keeping a woman on the side and fathering his eldest son became a blessing. I was supposed to gladly accept ridiculous, pathetic, deplorable. Number. Chapter 1. The rupture. I didn't cry, nor did I rush in to confront him. Years of a lonely and difficult life taught me one thing. When a person despises you to the core, everything you do is wrong. You make a scene, he calls you jealous. You endure it. He calls you a coward. You question him. He says you are making a mountain out of a molehill. I slowly turned around. Each step I took was extremely steady. Dusk fell all around. The lanterns on the covered walkway were not yet lit, with only the dim light of the sky accompanying me. I returned to the small courtyard I was temporarily staying in, threw that scented pouch into the copper basin, then took out the wedding dress that I'd spent 3 months having the best embroiderer in the capital rush to make, and tossed it in as well. The flames surged up, illuminating my calm face. The burning embroidery threads made a faint crackling sound, just like my 3 years of infatuation shattering inch by inch. The red wedding dress twisted and deformed in the flames, eventually turning to ash. He came in carrying the evening meal, and was so shocked by the scene that she was rendered speechless. Miss Thursday this is. If this marriage is a blessing, then I, Shen Qingwan, don't want this blessing. My voice was very soft, yet it carried an unprecedented sense of finality. Number. Chapter 2. Fleeing the wedding on the day of the grand wedding. The wedding procession from the Zhenbei Marquis mansion stretched from the main street to the end of the alley. The ground was paved with red silk. The sound of gongs and drums was deafening. With a 10-li dowry procession, the spectacle was magnificent. However, the auspicious hour had arrived, but the bride was still nowhere to be seen. When the steward from the Marquise's mansion broke down the door with his men, they only saw an empty room and a plain letter on the dressing table. On the letter were only 8 characters: the marriage agreement is cancelled. Let us part, and each go our own way. It is said that when Xie Zhengxiao saw the note, He overturned the entire room on the spot, with vases and antiques shattered all over the floor. The wedding banquet became the biggest joke in the capital city, and the Marquis of Junbei's residence lost all its face. The whole city was talking, saying that I, this ungrateful orphan girl, was simply crazy for giving up being the cheesy consort and daring to run away from the marriage. Zhai Zhengxiao announced to the public that I had suddenly contracted a serious illness and was sent to a villa to recuperate, barely suppressing the scandal. But privately, he sent out countless men, searching for me like a madman. He probably thought that I, an orphan girl with no money, couldn't survive after leaving him, and would sooner or later come back crying, begging him to take me in. He was wrong. Although my parents passed away early, they left me a huge fortune unknown to others, managed by loyal servants on my behalf. Over the years, the trade routes my father left behind have long since spread all over the country, rivaling the wealth of a nation. The only reason I've always posed as an orphan girl was to find someone who would truly love me, not for my wealth. Looking at it now, how ridiculous. Number. Chapter 3. Heading north, I brought He with me, and using the travel permits and identity documents I had prepared long ago, we quietly left the capital city. The horse carriage headed all the way north, leaving that bustling yet cold cage. I lifted the carriage curtain, watching the scenery recede rapidly outside the window, my mind a clear and empty space. "Miss, are we really just leaving like this?" "Bye," he said worriedly. "What if the people from the Marquise's residence catch up to us?" "You won't be able to catch up," I said lightly. "And besides, I am not going back." Bye, he sighed. "It is just a shame about all of Mrs. sincere feelings for the young master." I smiled. But the smile didn't reach my eyes. My sincere feelings were fed to a dog, so it is time to take them back. From now on, my true feelings are very expensive, and I'll only give them to those who are worthy. We traveled all the way north, heading straight for the border city of Yunzhou. That was the place my father once guarded, and also where my mother's merchant caravan got its start. Nowadays, there are frequent wars in the northern border. Although Yunzhou isn't as prosperous as the capital, the heavens are high and the emperor is far away, making it a place where I can catch my breath and start anew. I just underestimated Xia Zhengxiao's obsession. Number, Chapter 4. Intercepted midway halfway through our journey. On a main road, we were stopped by a troop of horsemen. I recognized the leader. It was Xia Zhengxiao's personal guard commander, Lin Yuan. "Miss Shen, the young master requests your presence." Lin Yuan was expressionless, but his tone carried a hardness that allowed no refusal. I sat in the carriage, my voice coming from behind the curtain, as cold as frost. "I am no longer Miss Shen, and I have nothing more to do with your young master. Please move aside." Lin Yuan obviously didn't expect this attitude from me, and he frowned. "Miss Shen, the young master asking you to return is to give you face. It is very inconvenient for a young woman to be out on her own. The young master said that as long as you go back, you will still be the future mistress of the Marquise's estate." "Decency," I sneered. Xi Zhengxiao, had his eldest son with someone before our marriage, stomping the face of me, his fiancé, on the ground, and now he has the nerve to talk to me about decency. I lifted the carriage curtain and looked straight at Lin Yuan. "Go back and tell him. His blessings are too great, and I, Shen Qingwan, am not worthy of them. Let him hug his eldest son and his beloved, and go live a good life." Lin Yuan's face instantly turned ugly. Apparently Xia Zhengxiao hadn't told them about this matter. "Miss Shen, please don't make things difficult for your subordinate." He put his hand on the sword at his waist. The guards by my side immediately stepped forward, shielding the carriage in their midst. These men were all old troops left behind by Dad, every single one of them exceptionally skilled. What Shizi Xia can't find the person, so he is resorted to snatching them instead. "Is this how a prestigious Marquise's household behaves?" I said sarcastically. Just at this moment, a burst of steady and powerful hoofbeats came from afar, drawing near. Number. Chapter 5. Prince Ning, a troop of black-armored cavalry came riding in the afterglow of the setting sun, escorting a black carriage. That troop had a grim and imposing presence, carrying the iron-blooded air of battle-hardened veterans, making Lin Yuan and his men involuntarily tense up. A black carriage stopped beside my procession of carriages. The carriage curtain was lifted by a well-defined hand wearing a black jade thumb ring, revealing a handsome face. The man was about 27 or 28 years old. His gaze swept over them lightly, making Lin Yuan and the others feel as if they had fallen into an ice cavern. The most eye-catching thing was a faint scar on his left brow bone, which not only didn't mar his appearance, but instead added a hint of sharp intensity. I recognize him. The current emperor's own younger brother, Prince Ning, Murong-Heng, who commands 300,000 armored cavalry. Rumor has it that he was severely injured on the northern border battlefield 3 years ago, scarring his face, and has yet to marry. How could he be here? The moment Lin Yuan saw Murong-Heng, his face instantly turned deathly pale, and he quickly dismounted and knelt on the ground. This humble subordinate pays his respects to your highness, Prince Ning. Murong-Heng's gaze paused on my face for a moment, then shifted to Lin Yuan, his voice as cold as ice. What are the people from the Marquis of Zhenbei's estate doing here, gathering to rob people on the road? This humble subordinate wouldn't dare. Lin Yuan was scared out of his wits. This humble subordinate is acting on the young master's orders to escort back the estate's fiancé. The end of Murong-Heng's sentence lifted slightly with a hint of amusement. How is it that this prince has heard that the young mistress of the Marquis of Zhenbei's estate passed away from illness on her wedding day? Lin Yuan prostrated on the ground, not daring to look up. Murong-Heng ignored him, his gaze returning to me. Those calm eyes seemed as if they could see right through a person's heart. You are Shen Qingwan? I composed myself and bowed low. This commoner girl, Shen Qingwan, pays respects to your highness. An orphan girl running away from her marriage. You are quite bold. He scrutinized me, his tone betraying neither pleasure nor anger. I met his gaze. This commoner girl just doesn't want to live her life as a joke. A trace of surprise flashed in Murong-Heng's eyes. Then the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. Kinda interesting. Since you don't want to be his Shizi Fei, then, he paused. Be my Wang Fei, are you willing? There was a dead silence all around. Lin Yuan looked up in shock, his face full of disbelief. Even Bai, he gasped. I was stunned. Nang Wang Fei, a position that was more than 100 times higher than Shizi Fei of the Marquis's manor. Why, your highness? I asked. I need a princess consort to shut up those old geezers in the royal court. He was concise, his tone as flat as if discussing the weather. And you need a powerful backer to make Xiao, to make the residents of the Marquis of Zhenbei never again dare to harm you in the slightest. This was a transaction where each gets what they need. I get it. Maybe he took an interest in my clean background. Maybe he just finds it amusing. Or maybe he wants to use this to slap the house of the Marquis of Zhenbei in the face. The Marquis of Zhenbei is the Crown Prince's grand tutor, a core figure in the Crown Prince's faction, and Murong-Heng has never been on good terms with the Crown Prince. In just a brief moment, 1,000 thoughts had already raced through my mind. By marrying him, I will completely get rid of Shi Zhengxiao's harassment and get the most stable protection. But at the same time, I will also be drawn into a deeper whirlpool of court politics. But do I have any other choice? Looking at the menacingly glaring Lin Yuan, I know that if it weren't for Murong-Heng today, I wouldn't be able to leave at all. Shi Zhengxiao's obsession will only make my future path even more difficult. Rather than passively waiting for unknown risks, it is better to proactively seize the opportunity before me. I took a deep breath, meeting Murong-Heng's scrutinizing gaze, and slowly knelt down. This commoner girl, Shen Qingwan, is willing to marry your highness. I only ask that your highness promise me one thing. Speak. In this life, I only ask that your highness favors me alone. If your highness has a beloved in the future, Shen Qingwan is willing to request to be sent away, and will absolutely not pester you. This is my bottom line. I will never repeat the same mistake again, sharing a husband with other women. A playful glint flashed in Murong-Heng's eyes. He let out a low chuckle that laughter deep and pleasant. Granted, this prince will have no other women in this life, he said to the guard behind him. Go tell the Marquis Zhenbei's manor. Miss Shen is now this prince's future princess consort. Tell them to control their own hands. If they stretch them out another inch, this prince won't mind helping them chop them off. Yes, Lin Yuan's face was ashen as he led his men away in a sorry state. Murong Heng's gaze fell on me again. Get in the carriage, Wang Fei. Number Chapter 6, The Grand Wedding. I never thought my remarriage would be so dramatic marrying Murong Heng. Our wedding was arranged quickly, but it wasn't low-key. Murong Heng directly brought me back to the Prince of Ning's mansion in the capital. 3 days later, with a ceremony second only to the empress's, an 8-bearer sedan chair carried me through the mansion's main gates. The entire capital city exploded. That crazy woman who ran away from her wedding, Shen Qingwan, in the blink of an eye, had become the Princess of Ning, whose power overshadowed the entire court. This was more bizarre than any storybook. I could imagine the look on Shen Xiao's face when the news reached the Marquis of Zhenbei's mansion. On the wedding night, the red candles burned brightly. Murong Heng pushed open the door and came in. He had already changed out of his elaborate ceremonial robes, wearing only a set of plain black clothes. That scar was faintly visible in the candlelight. He walked over to me and personally lifted my veil. Our eyes met. His dark, deep eyes reflected the flickering candlelight, as well as my calm face. "Do you regret it?" he asked. I shook my head. No regrets. This was my own choice. Very good. He handed me a cup of nuptial wine. From today on, you are the mistress of this Prince of Ning's mansion. You are in charge of everything in the mansion, and no one will dare bully you, including this prince. I took the wine cup, and we drank with our arms intertwined. The spicy liquor slid down my throat, but my mind was crystal clear. I knew our marriage began as a transaction, but I would do everything a princess consort should. Number. Chapter 7. Meeting in the palace on the 3rd day of our marriage. According to custom, I was to enter the palace to pay my respects to the Empress Dowager and the Empress. Murong Heng accompanied me. On the way to Signing Palace, we ran into the Crown Prince and Xie Zhengxiao. Xie Zhengxiao was dressed in the court attire of a marquise's heir. His figure still tall and straight, his face still handsome, but a lingering gloom shrouded his brow. When he saw me holding Murong Heng's arm and saw the formal dress of a princess consort I was wearing, embroidered with a phoenix pattern in gold thread, his pupils suddenly constricted, and all the color drained from his face. Those eyes that once looked at me with such affection were now filled with shock, pain, unwillingness, and a trace of anger from being betrayed, as if I were the one who had broken faith. I only found it laughable. Imperial uncle, imperial aunt. The crown prince, Xiao Cheng, had a gentle smile on his face as he bowed first. Murong Heng indifferently acknowledged him. My gaze didn't linger on Xie Zhengxiao for even a second. I just curtsied to the crown prince along with Murong Heng. "Greetings, Your Highness, the crown prince." My voice was calm and steady, as if looking at a stranger. Xie Zhengxiao's body froze. He stared hard at me, his lips quivering, as if he wanted to say something. "Shizi Shi," Murong Heng's cold voice rang out. "Seeing this prince in the Wang Fei, don't you know to pay your respects? Or is it that the rules of the Marquis Zhenbei's residence have all been fed to the dogs?" Jiang Xiao's face turned pale. Only then, as if waking from a dream, did he bow in humiliation. "Your subject, Xian Xiao, pays respects to His Highness, Prince Ning, and to Her Highness, the Princess Consort." Those last 4 words, he practically squeezed them out from between his teeth. I calmly accepted his bow, feeling no ripples in my heart. "Let's go." Murong Heng put his arm around my waist, not even bothering to spare them a glance, holding me as we walked past them. In the instant we brushed past each other, I heard Xie Zhengxiao's suppressed voice sound in my ear. "Shen Qingwan, are you really so heartless?" I didn't stop walking, not even turning my head back. Heartless? When he was being all lovey-dovey with another woman, and had a child with her before the wedding, and still thought that giving me the position of the official wife was a blessing. Why didn't he ever think about how heartless he himself was? Some things, once broken, can never be pieced back together again. End of Part 2, completed content. Chapter 1 to Chapter 7. From the beginning to the encounter in the palace, the female lead's name has been consistently changed to Shen Qingwan. Murong-heng proposes marriage, gets married and enters the imperial court for the first time. Next part preview. Chapter 8. Banquet conflict. Xie Zhengxiao attends with Bai Zhiruo and their child. Chapter 9. Entanglement in the corridor. Xie Zhengxiao blocks her path to confess. Chapter 10. Murong-heng protects his wife 50 slaps to the face. Investigating and punishing the Marquise's residence. Please confirm if you want to continue with part 3. Chapter 8. The banquet. The days of being Princess Ning were calmer than I had imagined. Murong-heng was a very busy person. He left early and returned late every day, so we didn't see each other much. But he fulfilled his promise, giving me all the honor and rights of a princess consort. The servants in the manor were extremely respectful to me, and I was in charge of all affairs in the inner court. He even gave me the keys to his private treasury, which was filled with rare treasures that could rival a nation's wealth. "You are my consort. Everything I have is yours," he said. I started to learn how to manage the manor's businesses. I secretly integrated the business methods my mom taught me and the trade routes and contacts my dad left behind, and found that although Murong-heng's businesses were large, their management was a bit crude. So I wrote some plans for improvement and anonymously placed them on his desk. He didn't ask anything, but the next day those plans were distributed. A strange tacit understanding formed between us. We were the most intimate husband and wife, and also the most distant allies. Days like this until the arrival of a palace banquet. At the banquet, I saw Xie Zhengxiao again. He also brought a graceful and pretty woman with him, who was holding a little boy of about 2 years old in her arms. I recognized her Bai Zhiruo, Xie Zhengxiao's distant female cousin. Right now, she was leaning against Xie Zhengxiao with a frail look. The gaze she directed at me filled with provocation and gloating, as if to say, "Look, so what if you became the princess consort? Xie Zhengxiao's heart and his eldest son are both with me." I just found it absurd. She seemed to have forgotten that I was the one who took the initiative and left Xiao Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao's gaze, however, remained on me. It was an incredibly complex look, filled with regret, resentment, and a kind of deep affection I couldn't comprehend, as if he was deeply in love with me, and I was the one who had broken his heart. Halfway through the banquet, I went to change. He was keeping watch outside. Unexpectedly, at a corner of the corridor, my path was blocked by Xie Zhengxiao. Chapter 9. Entanglement. Qingwan. He called my name, his voice hoarse and his eyes bloodshot. "Let's talk. I have nothing to talk about with Xie." I coldly tried to walk around him, but he grabbed my wrist with startling strength. Why didn't you wait for my explanation? Why did you marry someone else so quickly? Do you hate me that much? Let go." I struggled. His touch disgusted me. "I won't let go." He looked at me stubbornly, his eyes actually welling up. "Qingwan, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have hidden it from you. But Jiro and I were just an accident. That child. I never meant for him to affect you. The only one in my heart has always been you. Your position as my primary wife is still yours. As long as you come back, I'll send the mother and son away immediately. Can we go back to how we were before?" Okay. This deeply affectionate, self-pitying performance of his just made me want to laugh. "Xie Zhengxiao," I forcefully shook off his hand and looked at him coldly. "Have you forgotten? You once said that for an orphan girl like me, being your primary wife was already a blessing. What? Now that I say I don't want this blessing, you've started to think it is precious?" My words were like a knife stabbing viciously into his heart. His face instantly turned as pale as paper. I was just saying things in anger to Chang'an back then. He defended himself futilely. Things said in anger. My smile grew even colder. Then was your eldest son also born from things said in anger? Xie Zhengxiao, put away that pathetic deep affection of yours. You don't love me. You only love the Shen Qingwan, who was completely obedient to you and treated you as her entire world. You can't accept my departure, not because of how much you love me, but because your pride and possessiveness have been challenged. I am now Princess Ning, and there is no longer any possibility between us. Please have some self-respect, and don't come and disgust me again." After I finished speaking, I turned to leave, but he hugged me tightly from behind. I don't believe it. I don't believe you have no feelings for me anymore. You married Prince Ning just to get revenge on me, right? His voice was filled with jealousy and madness. Qingwan, look at me, you tell me, do you love him? A man like him, so cold-blooded and heartless, full of a murderous aura, and with a scar on his face, how could you possibly fall in love with him? I was trembling with anger and was about to scold him. Number Chapter 10, Protecting his wife let her go. A voice colder than the biting winter wind rang out. It was Murong Heng. He had appeared behind us at some point, and those phoenix eyes of his now held not a trace of warmth, only biting, killing intent. The black armored guards behind him had already half drawn their sabers. Xi Zhengshao's body froze. Is this prince's consort someone you can touch? Murong Heng walked over step by step, each step as if treading on Shi Zhengxiao's heart. He reached out, pried open Shi Zhengxiao's fingers one by one, and pulled me into his embrace. His embrace was very warm, carrying a faint scent of ambergris, which instantly put me at ease. Your Highness. I looked up at him. He didn't look at me, just stared at Shi Zhengxiao, his gaze like he was looking at a dead man. Shi Zhengxiao, it seems you didn't learn your lesson from last time. Your Highness. I just wanted to say a few words to Qingwan. There are some misunderstandings between us. Shi Zhengxiao's voice trembled under Murong Heng's powerful aura. A misunderstanding. Murong Heng sneered. My consort told me herself, to my face, that it was you who was promiscuous before marriage and secretly got pregnant, leaving her with no way out. Is this also a misunderstanding? Yi Zhengxiao's face turned completely pale. He didn't expect I would tell Murong Heng about this kind of thing. Looks like the Marquis Zhenbei's household is too idle. Murong Heng put his arm around me and turned to leave, leaving behind only a cold remark. Zhao Feng, relay this prince's command. The Marquis Zhenbei has failed to discipline his son and is flawed in his virtue. Order the Ministry of Personnel to strictly investigate his fei-feis and old acquaintances. And as for anyone found to be corrupt and perverting the law, investigate them all thoroughly to the end. As for Shi Zixia, he paused, turned his head to the side, the corner of his eye sweeping over Shi Zhengxiao. He offended the princess consort and was disrespectful with his words. Drag him down and slap his mouth 50 times. No, Your Highness. You can't. Shi Zhengshao's cry of alarm was muffled by a guard who covered his mouth. Soon, the clear and loud sound of slapping came from the end of the corridor. I leaned in Murong Heng's arms, listening to that sound, my heart completely unmoved. Feel better now? He asked, lowering his head. I nodded, but he sighed and held me even tighter. From now on, when you encounter something like this, just have someone beat them back. You are my Wang Fei, and in the capital besides the Empress Dowager and the Emperor, no one can let you be wronged. My heart uncontrollably skipped a beat at that moment. Number. Chapter 11. Changes. After that night, Shi Zhengxiao seemed to have disappeared from the capital. I heard that he was beaten beyond recognition by Murong Heng's men, was confined to his residence to recover, and didn't leave the house for a long time. And the residence of the Marquis of Zhenbei, because of a single sentence from Murong Heng, fell into huge trouble. The censors from the Ministry of Personnel and the censorate, like sharks that had smelled blood, investigated the officials of the Marquis's faction from top to bottom. For a time, everyone at court was on edge. The Marquis of Zhenbei was overwhelmed, and though he tried to seek an audience with Murong Heng several times, he was always turned away at the door. And my relationship with Murong Heng, however, underwent a subtle change after that night. He was no longer just my ally and my backer. He would remember that I don't like to eat ginger, and would always discreetly pick the ginger slices out of my bowl. When I was working on the mansion's accounts late into the night, he would silently drape an outer robe over me, and then bring me a bowl of piping hot lotus seed soup. When I was feeling down because of past matters, he would awkwardly stay by my side, not saying anything, just quietly being there. This Prince Ning, who was cold-blooded and merciless in the eyes of outsiders, gave all his gentleness and patience to me. My heart, like a frozen lake, was gradually thawed by his warmth. I started to respond to his kindness. I would leave a lamp on and a bowl of hot tea for him when he returned late. I would sew clothes for him with my own hands according to his preferences. I would remember his birthday and hold a banquet just for the two of us. We became more and more like a real married couple, until one day, I accidentally discovered a hidden compartment in his study. End of Part 3, completed content. Chapters 8 to 11. From banquet conflict to deepening affection. Zi Zhengxiao's persistent confession, Murong Heng domineeringly protects his wife. The two's feelings gradually deepen. Next part preview. Chapter 12. The Truth of the Portrait, Discovering the Past of Childhood Sweethearts. Chapter 13. The Candy from 20 Years Ago. Murong Heng's Heartfelt Confession. Chapter 14. Treating each other with sincerity. The two's feelings completely sublimate. Continue to Part 4. Number. Chapter 12. The Portrait in the Hidden Compartment. There was no gold, silver, or jewels, no secret documents, only a painting. In the painting was a little girl of 7 or 8, wearing a faded, washed-out dress, squatting on the ground, carefully bandaging the wound of an injured kitten. That little girl was clearly me as a child. Me head buzzed. Where did he get this painting? That night, when Murong Heng came back, I gave the painting to him. He froze when he saw the painting, and a flicker of awkwardness immediately flashed across his face. "What is this?" I asked softly. He was silent for a long time, then sighed and pulled me onto his lap. "Do you still remember? 20 years ago, outside Yunzhou City, there was a young boy being besieged by a pack of wolves." My memory was instantly pulled back to the distant past. When Dad was still alive, we lived in Yunzhou. When I was 7 years old, I followed Uncle Zhang the herb gatherer up the mountain and saved a young boy who was covered in blood and surrounded by a few hungry wolves. That boy looked about 13 or 14 years old, was extremely handsome, but was a total mess. The look he gave me was filled with wariness and ferocity, like an injured wolf cub. I wasn't afraid of him. I had Uncle Zhang drive away the wolf pack and then use the crude medical skills I had just learned to bandage his wound. I also gave him the only piece of malt candy I had on me. "Eat it. After you eat the candy, the wound won't hurt anymore," I said to him in my childish voice. He stared at me blankly, looking for a long time before he took the candy. Later, his family found him and took him away. I never saw him again. I always thought that was just a trivial episode from my childhood. "That young boy was you." I looked at Murong Heng in disbelief. Murong Heng nodded, his eyes holding a trace of gentleness and nostalgia I had never seen before. "That year, I was framed by my brothers in the palace, chased all the way to Yunzhou, and almost lost my life. It was you who saved me." He stroked my hair, his voice low. "I asked for your name then, and you said you were called Qingwan." I remembered it. After I returned to the palace, it took me a long time to secure my footing. By the time I went back to Yunzhou to look for you, the Shen family had already met with misfortune, and you were nowhere to be found. I looked for you for many years." He pointed to the painting. "I painted this from memory. I was afraid that after a long time, I would forget what you looked like." My heart was enveloped in immense shock, aching and swelling. Something was about to surge from my eyes. So the fate between us had started so long ago. So he had been looking for me for all. Number. Chapter 13. Confession. "Then why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked, choking up. "I was afraid of scaring you." He gave a bitter laugh. "When I found you, you were about to marry Xian Xiao. I originally thought that as long as you were happy, I would just protect you in secret for your whole life. But I didn't expect him to treat you like that. When we met again on the official road, when I said I wanted to marry you, it was half a transaction, and half for my own selfish reasons. I was afraid that if I missed the chance again, I would really lose you forever." "Qingwan," he cupped my face, looking at me with utmost seriousness. "I adore you, and I always have. Ever since you gave me that piece of candy 20 years ago." The tears finally burst forth. I threw myself into his arms, crying my heart out. Crying for the 3 years of my youth I wasted. Crying for my foolishness in being a poor judge of character. And also crying for my good fortune in getting back what I lost. It turns out heaven wasn't treating me badly. He just saved the best for last. Number. Husband and wife. Morong Heng and I finally became a true husband and wife. After that layer of window paper between us was pierced, our relationship progressed by leaps and bounds. He no longer hid his doting affection for me, and I also wholeheartedly relied on him and loved him. People in the capital all say that since Prince Ning married his princess, his murderous aura has lessened a lot, and he has softened up as a person. And I, under his doting love, also gradually revealed my original sharp edge. I was no longer just Princess Ning. I used the wealth and connections. My parents left me to open the capital's largest silk emporium, grain store, and money house. Business was booming, and I soon controlled nearly half of the capital's economic lifeblood. I also set up a charity house, taking in orphans, teaching them how to read and write, and to learn a skill. People no longer said I was an orphan girl who could only shine because of Prince Ning. They called me the widely renowned for her charity, Proprietor Shen, the wondrous woman of infallible strategies. I had my own brilliance, and all of this couldn't have happened without Morong Heng's support from behind the scenes. No matter what I did, he unconditionally trusted and supported me. My princess consort was always meant to be the most dazzling star in the sky, he said. The days passed peacefully and happily. Until one day, news came from the palace. Chapter 15. Downfall. The crown prince mismanaged state affairs as regent, causing the Yellow River's dikes to break and displacing thousands upon thousands of people. And the disaster relief funds allocated by the imperial court were embezzled at every level, disappearing without a trace. The emperor was furious and ordered a thorough investigation. All the clues ultimately pointed to the crown prince's faction, as well as the Marquis Zhenbei's residence. Turns out, Marquis Zhenbei had been using his authority all these years to open doors for his faction, taking bribes and bending the law, forming cliques for personal gain, and had long ago hollowed out more than half of the imperial court. And the repair of the Yellow River's Great Dike was Marquis Zhenbei's responsibility in the first place. He embezzled most of the silver, which is what led to today's catastrophic disaster. With both witnesses and material evidence present, the case was ironclad. The crown prince was deposed and placed under house arrest in the imperial clan court. The entire household of the Marquis Zhenbei residence was when the news came. I was in the courtyard looking at my newly planted flowers. He was by my side, reading the news from the capital daily, her tone full of glee. As I listened, I felt very calm inside. On the day of the house raid, the entire capital city went to watch. I didn't go. I didn't want to see those people again. However, I didn't want to see them. Yet someone insisted that I must. The day before the execution, Sheyong Xiao somehow managed to bribe the jailers and asked to see me one last time. Morong Heng asked me what I thought. I thought for a moment and said, "I'll see him. Why shouldn't I? It is time to put an end to this." End of Part 4, Content completed. Chapters 12 to 15. From the truth of the portrait to the fall of the Marquise's residence. The past of being childhood sweethearts 20 years ago. Morong Heng's affectionate confession their relationship completely deepened the Marquis of Zhenbei's residence. Was raw-eyed and confiscated preview of the final part. Chapter 16. Confrontation in prison. The last meeting with Xiaozhang. Chapter 17. The dust settles. Xiaozhang Xiao faces justice. Epilogue. A perfect ending, giving birth to fraternal twins. Living a happy and fulfilling life. Continue to the final part. Chapter 16. A clean break. The place where I met him was in a side hall of the prince's residence. He was wearing a prisoner's uniform, in handcuffs and shackles, and was escorted in by the guards. In just a few short months, he seemed like a completely different person. His former handsomeness and high spirits were all gone. He looked gaunt and withered with sunken eyes, and most of his hair turned white, appearing even older than Morong Heng. When he saw me, a flicker of light finally appeared in his dead, silent eyes. "Qingwan," he spoke hoarsely, his voice like it had been scraped by sandpaper. I sat in the main seat, holding my tea and looking at him faintly. "Young Master Shi." A cry of "Young Master Shi" made his whole body tremble. He laughed bitterly, his laughter full of despair. Princess consort. Heh, I was wrong. I was wrong from the very beginning. I shouldn't have been so arrogant, shouldn't have looked down on your true heart, shouldn't have thought you would always be there waiting for me. I always thought you loved me so much, you lost yourself, that you couldn't live without me. It wasn't until you left without looking back, until you married King Ning, until you became a presence more dazzling than me, than everyone, that I realized just how ridiculously wrong I was. I lost the best treasure in the world, but treated a venomous woman with a heart of a snake and scorpion as a treasure. He sounded like he was telling a joke that had nothing to do with himself, but that laughter sounded uglier than crying. Bai Zhiruo, haha. She got close to me from the very beginning just for the wealth and fortune of the Marquise's mansion. The moment our family got into trouble, she was the first to pack up the valuables and try to run. And she even wanted to sell that son of mine, Qingwan. He suddenly raised his head, looking at me with bloodshot eyes, and abruptly knelt down. I know my sins deserve 10,000 deaths. I am not asking for your forgiveness. I only beg you, for the sake of us having known each other, to save my family. They are innocent. My dad, he was also blinded by greed. I quietly listened to him finish and put down my teacup. Zi Zhengxiao, I said, word by word. The Yellow River burst its banks. Tens of thousands of common people lost their homes and families and were displaced. How innocent were they? When your father embezzled from the national treasury and treated human lives as worthless, did he ever think they were innocent? While you enjoyed that blood-soaked wealth, shamelessly keeping a mistress and having your eldest son, feeling that even giving me the title of the official wife was a blessing, did you ever think that I, too, was innocent? Your wealth was built upon the bones of countless people and my dignity. Now that retribution has come, you are here begging me to save those butchers. My words were like sharp swords, stripping him clean of his last shred of hope and dignity. He collapsed onto the ground, his face ashen, unable to utter a single word. Even now, you are still thinking of having me run errands for your family. Shejung Xiao, you truly have never really known me. Deep down in your heart, you still think that I, Shen Qingwan, am that orphan girl you can easily manipulate. I stood up looking down at him. I came to see you today not to hear you repent, nor to gloat over your predicament. I just wanted to tell you one thing. I placed a hand on my slightly protruding belly, and my face broke into the most genuine and gentle smile it had shown in a long time. I am pregnant, and it is the prince's child. Number. Chapter 17. Dust Xie Zhengxiao suddenly raised his head, the last bit of light in his eyes completely extinguished. He looked at my lower abdomen, looked at the happy smile on my face, his gaze shifting from shock to pain to jealousy, until finally all that was left was boundless despair. My life has already turned a new page there. I have a husband who loves me, our soon-to-be-born child, and a bright, splendid future. As for you and your past, to me you are nothing more than a speck of dust that has long been brushed away. Fend for yourself, young Master Shi. I turned and left, and never looked back. From behind me came his uncontrollable roars and anguished cries, like those of a trapped beast. Murong Heng was waiting for me at the door. He walked forward, took off his own cloak, and draped it over me. It is all over, he said in a low voice. I leaned into his warm embrace and nodded. It is all over. The next day, the entire household of the Marquis of Zhenbei was executed. I heard that on the execution ground, Xie Zhengxiao kept kowtowing ceaselessly in the direction of the Prince of Ning's manor, muttering my name under his breath until the very last moment. I didn't go to watch. That past has truly turned to dust. Number epilogue. Spring's warmth and blooming flowers. Half a year later, I gave birth to a pair of boy and girl twins. Murong Heng held the children, happy like a fool. He named their son Murong Nianan and their daughter Murong Muan. May I protect you for a lifetime of peace, and I will forever admire Shen Qingwan, he said. I looked at his handsome side profile, at the child in his arms, and my heart was filled with warmth and peace. I once thought my life was a tragedy, starting with betrayal and abandonment. But I never expected that fate had already buried a piece of candy for me on that distant afternoon. That piece of candy traveled through 20 years of wind and frost, and finally gave me the sweetness of an entire spring. Outside the window, the spring scenery was just right. Murongheng handed the child to the wet nurse, turned around, and pulled me into his arms. "Qingwan, are you tired?" "Not tired." I leaned into his arms, a smile on my lips. "Then how about we go see your new charity hall?" "Okay." We walked out of the room hand in hand. The sunlight fell on our bodies, warm and cozy. Bai he followed behind, holding the two children, beaming with a smile. In this life, I've finally found the right person. From now on, warm springs and blooming flowers, quiet and beautiful years. End of full text.